mage's quest. And that was defeating the dried king up at the top, or something like that. Lady who gives you a hard light has a quest, and I saw you beat it. I mean, I guess I completed a quest. It wasn't that particularly noticeable, to be honest. And that's how most things in this game unfortunately are, though. It's just unnoticeable. It doesn't leave an impact. If okay, I'm gonna be super blunt about this. This is not a great game. It's not a bad game, but it's not great. I wouldn't even call it good. It's mediocre at the very worst, and somewhat palatable at the best. Most of the areas in the world, while they are varied, they are lacking in this sort of aliveness, being alive, this sort of world that is supposed to be interactive, and you're supposed to get a feeling of either dread or joy or awe, even. And the last area did provide awe, but that's the last area of the game. Which is absolutely astounding that I didn't even really feel anything until then. If the first boss, Sodden Knight, and you heard me comment during the Nameless God fight, is this Sodden Knight? Because I noticed a very similar move set that Sodden Knight does. If he and the last boss left the best impression on me of being good bosses, that's not a good thing. Like, it's really not. From the high point of the basin, not the basin, but the beginning of the area, finding out what the world is, what kind of lore is in the game, and there is lore in the game, but it's all muddled and garbled together. It doesn't make any sort of sense, no matter how much you puzzle it. I imagine that if you do get enough of the pieces together, enough of the items, and you go through them one by one, and you start to categorize them by areas and places, because there are actual areas of the game. Your nationality is actually on that huge continent, and the places on that continent are mentioned in the item descriptions. So there is something there, but it's not conclusive enough. It isn't focused enough to actually bring together a solid evidence of this game has a story. It just doesn't. It's very gray, much like this title screen. From going to the high of the Sodden Knight, and then going down to the Queen of Sorrows, or the Queen of Smiles, I'm sorry. Those two were the high point. And then from there, it just sort of slowly dwindled down into this area of mediocrity, where the bosses would be there, and yet have no real consequence or effect on the world or the place around them. The Alchemist is one of them. The third lamb is another one. It's like, why is this creature here? I'm pretty sure if I would have read the description for the third lamb, I would know. the Dried King is probably the king of the Ziggurat of Dust. So that right there is a lore reason, and I understand why he's there. Um, the Artorias knockoff, Cairn or whatever his name was, he was an okay boss, but it was definitely a reference to Artorias. It was almost one for one a reference from Artorias. Even the power up is like dark, and it takes him a long time to charge up. um, I want to get onto the topic of the bosses while I'm still on the bosses. Many of them were, again, mediocre. None of them left quite an impact. And I know I'm going to sound quite blasphemous, so Artorias gets shit on by Poison. Hey, that's good. I know this is going to sound strange to anybody who has watched my Salt and Sanctuary streams in the past, especially most recently. I found, funnily enough, the Witch of the Lake to have way more impact than any other boss combined. She was the very, very first boss that had to make me think outside the box to fight. And even though I hated fighting her, I despise her. This funny feeling. Oh, hello, Aiden. I'm just talking about the completion of Salt and Sanctuary right now. The Witch of the Lake, despite her incredibly strong arcane attacks, her unbelievable tracking of the spells, she has left more of an impact on me, not because of the one-hit mechanics. One hit due to my build. I imagine if I ran her with a magic build, that would have been a way different story, and some like more arcane defense armors. But the fact that she had to make me stop and change almost my entire build and strategy altogether, I can't say that she's entirely a bad boss, because she made me do something that no other boss did. She made me actually think and block some attacks, and not only that, use the dash, actually. Immediately after I got the dash, it was for either speeding through areas and the Witch of the Lake. That was it. No other place have I used that dash for a boss fight. Which always one-shots you unless you overlevel. Oof. And the final boss I want to touch on is the Nameless God, because there's no really other boss that I can think of that has left an impact. While extremely, almost embarrassingly, weak to blunt damage, which my build was entirely centered around, and I could block his physical attacks if I had switched to my one-handed weapon. It was no impact for scores. I mean, the dragon did make me take off my armor, but the moveset didn't make me think. It was extremely basic. It was an extremely basic moveset that either you rolled far away from, or you just spaced right in between the attacks, or roll at the last second, which was the lightning ball with the shockwave. So no real change in strategy other than just taking off armor so that I can roll faster. It was pretty much, I can take your hits, but I'm going to outdamage you because you cannot outdamage my healing. So no real impact for scores. It didn't leave any sort of relative thoughts or impressions on me. Hey, thanks for the bit, Aiden. Fuckity fuck. Aiden, thank you. Alright, now, the areas. The ones that left the most impressionable states, I'll give it the Village of Smiles. It was the first time you have seen traps, and it was a very good area for introducing traps as well. There's one at the very front, so that it teaches you immediately, look at the floor. This is fun to watch him struggle to say my name. Thanks for the other bit, Aiden. Fuck! I don't know. I haven't seen that name enough to actually pronounce it enough. Hello, Heretical Tyrant. Karstjal the Cool! Yeah, so, for those who just came in, I'm doing my review of Salt and Sanctuary. I've gone over the bosses, I've gone over the general feel of the game. Samurai Flakes, thank you so much for for hosting me. Yeah, pronouncing his name is the true final boss. Call me Aiden for fuck's sake, okay? Alright, chill Aiden, I got you. Aiden, fuck. You know what? Aiden, thank you. Oh my goodness sakes. I'm so bad at pronouncing names. Alright. Now. Aiden. Alright. Aiden. I got it, Aiden. I got it. Aiden. Let's see. Areas. Village of Smiles. Oh, what other area actually left quite something on me? The Still Palace. That was a pretty good area. Although short, it was the final area, and it did do its job proper of leading all to a conclusion. Crypt of the Old Gods. While absolute bullshit because of its platforming, and I will touch on the platforming of the game. Oh boy, I will touch on that. It was still a very good level design. Not level design, but thematic design behind it. The fact that the water flows upwards, it seems like once you approach that area from the alchemy, just the entire world flips on its head, and you seem to have entered some sort of let's call it what's the term, between heaven and hell, purgatory. It seems like you have entered some sort of a purgatory state of where it's not entirely awkward, but it is, and it's very strange. And that's what I did like about Crypt of the Old Gods. Let's see what else. Platforming, yes. Oh my god. That platforming in this game is utterly stupid. It is dumb beyond all reason. The controls for it, for the basic platforming, while jumping is fine. The jump is fine. However, the ledge grabbing mechanics are very touchy. Not touchy, but very confusing to get a hold of when you can grab onto a ledge and when you can't grab onto a ledge. Sometimes ledge grabs have saved me from a drop, and sometimes it hasn't. For me, almost any area appearance was struck by my memory how stupid the enemy placement was. Alright. Aiden. Thank you for the bit again. I'm glad you're enjoying this review. I really am. Because I am. I want to bash on this game a little bit more. The most egregious platforming that I have ever seen so far in Salt and Sanctuary, in this entire thing, was somewhere near the end of the game. You had to light a torch, and there were three blue clouds that you had to go on. The ledge grabbing for those specific platforms. Gotta go, Aiden. All right. I'm glad you came and visited, and thank you so much for the bits. I'm going to be streaming EDF now, EDF in a little bit. So if you do want to come back, then I will play in a little bit. Creates are so much better than Covenants, and I like transformation of weapons in this. The transformation of the weapons is a very cool idea. Back to platforming. Once you get the dashing ability... Can I join? Yes, you can, Heretical. Yes, you can. The dashing ability, while it is a very, very fun ability that you get, the fact that it does, remove a little bit of your stamina at a time, which is absolutely ridiculous. No... You can take away my health, okay? I'll be fine with that. It acts kind of like in Dark Souls, where you die and you lose some more health, and it's fine. But you take away my stamina and the amount of actions I can do, just over in general, whatever moves I do, you can actually fuck off. Like, really? I'm still shocked that that's a mechanic in this game. Why would you even do that? That's just putting unnecessary difficulty in a game where unnecessary difficulty doesn't want to exist, and yet it does. Enemy placements. While some enemy placements were good, most of it was bad. And I'm talking about the types of enemies as well. Some walkways had groups of, let's say, 4 enemies to them. However, they would all aggro at the same time, and most of them could attack faster than you can attack. Maybe it was because of my slow weapon. I don't know. Similar thing was because it looked weird to only have health decrease. Oof, that's not a very good reason, Geop. That's not a very good reason at all. I do understand the cheesing with the healing, though. The healing items, the poultice pouches, are incredibly powerful. The fact that you almost get a full heal from near death state from one poultice pouch is absolutely insane. I do understand the wounding, and the fact that there is a ring that you can get at the very beginning of the game that reduces your wounding effect, and that I used it 95% of the game, that also says something that the mechanics of what you have built in weren't good in the first place due to the enemies. The enemies, most of the time, attacked faster than you. Again, it may be congruent with my weapon choice, because I did have slow weapons. They also can, in quotations, can do some pretty nasty damage most of the time. They either hit you once for ludicrous damage. I'm talking copper, silver, and those platinum knights or gold knights or whatever they were. And the general speed of the enemies were, while a lot of the times their walking speed was slow, some of them had jumping maneuvers, and other times their range as well far outranged your own weapon. And I even had a warhammer, which had huge range, absolutely titanic range, and yet sometimes even I still got outranged, which is crazy. Point number 2. Enemies do not stagger. This is the main reason why I switched builds in the beginning of the game from I wanted to go with spears because I thought the spear moveset was cool. I got to the woods area where you have like multiple platforms on the woods and the archers shot at you. The minute I found out that those archers did not flinch from a two-handed spear was the moment I decided I have to switch builds. I cannot I cannot stand enemies. These basic archers, low-level tier enemies in the game, not even worth the dust on my shoe. They're not even being stunned by almost the heavy attack of my spear. And so I went down the hammer way, and as soon as I did, I started progressing through areas like that because enemies started to get stunned. And that's a big thing about this game. You can't have your mobs, have such a high resistance to stun for most weapons because the game just won't be fun. Who wants to go through a level of, let's say, fucking Black Knights, all right, in Dark Souls? Let's replace every single enemy inside, let's say, High Wall, okay, with Black Knights. They take no poise damage, almost, but they retain the health of the enemies in High Wall of Lothric. Would that be really fun? Actually, only Black Knight sounds pretty fun. I mean, I guess you could have some fun, but you have to remember some of them have a lot of ganking situations. Like in the shortcut area to the first bonfire, there's like 7 undead right there. So imagine if there were 7 Black Knights, all who had extremely long-range weapons, who did not flinch to your attacks, and still did about a quarter of your health every single time they hit. Now you're starting to see what Salt and Sanctuary actually kinda did over time. Alright, did I miss anything? Enemies, areas, platforming, level up, the level up system. That is very ingenious of a level up system. The fact that it splits in between gold for buying stuff and salt for leveling up, that's actually a pretty fleshed out system. I'm not gonna lie. It was very, very interesting seeing what kind of build I can take it. And at one point, I was going towards the spear and having a shield. However, I then switched heals and went for hammers and great hammers. So the fact that you can sort of switch on the fly as long as you had those gray pearls, that's very good. I have no real gripes about that. Talk about the non-linear progression. The non-linear progression is... it's okay. If you can make it work in a game, non-linear progression is fine. However, there has to be a point where you have to stop people from progressing so much in order to not break the game. And however, in my case, I absolutely broke the game. I skipped about a third of it by not even knowing where I was supposed to go. I somehow broke a third of the game. Yeah, as Geoff says, by killing Karstraw early on, I ruined the Knight's Quest, which is absolutely ridiculous. And in order to get to Karstraw in the first place, I have to go down Pitchwoods, which is a very, very long, just platforming puzzles. Well, not puzzles, but just basic platforming. And then I can either go left towards the Spindle Beasts, or I can go right towards these, towards these Vlad the Impaler victims, who were, yes, a little bit difficult, but they weren't absolutely like the end of the world. They had annoying attacks, but you can run right past them. Yes. And I'll even do one even better, Giop, if the progression was like Momodora. If you have seen my stream of Momodora yesterday. There you can in Momodora you have a like 4 or 5 different paths that you can go through that you unlock over time, and each one is open. However, the main path on which you have to go on is blocked. So if Sultan Sanctuary did something like that, where you have to get a specific item in order to pass, and you have to collect multiple of that item, like a puzzle piece, in order to pass onto the main gate and not break anything, that's also very good. It's what Sultan Sanctuary needed, however, it didn't have it. Thus, I not only defeated Karstraw, who was extremely easy, it might have been my build, and how I also made it to Witch of the Lake, and if I just progressed onwards towards Witch of the Lake and past her, I would have never fought the optional bosses in Ziggurat of Dust, Maul's Floating Castle, the Kane's Pass, a boss. What other boss am I missing? Something else, but no, I'm not really interested by the long jump. Sultan Sanctuary's time in the sun has ended, and I'm not going to be playing it anymore. Let's see. What else? Leveling system. Oh, that's what. The covenants themselves. Absolutely terrible way of handling this system. Absolutely terrible. The fact that it tells you nothing on how to use the stone people, and it gives you no real description of what the stone people do, so you have to kind of guess on what they do, and each one of them has an effect in general. So even if I had used a stone leader in order to upgrade the covenants, I didn't have a need to nor a want to. There was nothing in the game that prompted me to use stone leader or anything else other than one blacksmith and one alchemist. That's it. The only other stone person I used was a guide, because it was the way to warp from a sanctuary to sanctuary. And I wish that the game had built more of a focus around the covenants, or your specific covenant that you chose, for example. Like you get like a little hint early on that if let's say a leader is active, or if you have talked to a leader, you gain, I don't know, 10% damage, 10% attack within the leader's area. Let's give it at that. And then that would imply giving more attention towards a leader, or hell, even having some unlockables in the blacksmith green, for example. You can have something in there that says you need, I don't fucking know, 10,000 gold, a shimmering pearl, an ear of a dead person, and in parentheses at the bottom, level 2 of, or like rank 2 of whatever covenant you're in. If it had something like that, it would prompt a more urgent desire, or hell, even something of a thing to want to use the leaders. Besides from anything else, if you're a mage, you would use the stone mages or the stone sorcerers. If you're a faith build, you use the stone clerics. There's nothing that gives urgency to using anything other than one blacksmith, one alchemist, and a whole lot of guides. That's it. Yeah, but again, Geop, the game doesn't tell you that you can do this. All it says is that place a leader in your covenant, and it doesn't really say anything of what the leader does. I had no curiosity to see what the leader did, because it didn't seem that it had any sort of benefit. Like, the merchant has something that I can buy, and oh well, there goes my DualShock 4. The merchants did have something that I could buy early on that I didn't need to use again. The blacksmith, I only had to use once because I could teleport to that specific blacksmith and alchemist via the traveler system, the stone guide. So there was no real want or need, again, of any other NPC, which is also a negative on this game. In final conclusion, Sultan Sanctuary is an emotional roller coaster and also impressional roller coaster, of where the beginning is very exciting and you have a lot of expectations. The middle is a lengthy but steadily decline of both quality and interest, and by the time you hit the bottom, the end of the game, it has lost all of its charm, all of its interest, and seemingly all of its uniqueness about the game. Overall, it's mediocre. A 6 out of 10. Maybe a 7 on a good day. While some things are not too lasting for me, other things are. Alright, that's my rant about it. I think I ranted for like 30 minutes about this. So, I'll be